This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. And anomalous, really anomalous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
And why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated. Peachtree dish.
Nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. Got a show for you today. We have the Republican Party meltdown. The schism continues. Fun. We have the knives out for Trump, and this is, like I said, in conservative media. There's a little bit of a civil war going on. I know. Chuds are probably going to log out and be like, it's a lie, mainstream media, the fake news. Yeah, okay. All right. Look, I'm going to talk about that. We have an example here. Candace Owens turning on Donald Trump. Then we're going to make fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course. Jesse Waters, his terrible advice. Yep. But then I'm actually going to criticize an MSNBC Democrat for things that he said about Lauren Boebert. Trust me, I'm not happy that I have to defend Lauren Boebert on this one. But when we get to the segment, you'll see why. And of course, there's also the apology, which we'll get to on that as well. So. That said, we'll have some fun. Please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. With that, let's do it.
Not only was he just mad.
Whoop. I'm pressing buttons here. Fun times. Okay. Following Tuesday's disastrous midterm elections, where Democrats overperformed in many key races that prevented the coming red wave, or the prognosticated red wave, which turned more into a little bit of a puddle, maybe a drip here and there. Well, anyway, after that, Republicans decided to point some fingers, and mainly those fingers are at Donald Trump. So there's a reason for that. Many of his hand-picked candidates suffered embarrassing losses. For example, Dr. Oz got steamrolled by John Fetterman. Doug Mastriano lost to Josh Shapiro. Kari Lake and Blake Masters currently are hanging on by a thread. They're losing in Arizona. They might be able to pull it out, at least when it comes to Kari Lake, but we don't know. Out of the 36 toss-up races, Trump had made 5 endorsements that went on to lose their elections. Now, that said, the overall night, Republicans actually didn't do terrible. You had J.D. Vance or J.D. Mendel, whatever you want to call him, beating Tim Ryan in Ohio. So that's a definite win for Republicans. You had Abbott that held on to Texas against Beto O'Rourke. You had Florida, of course, which was, if there was a red wave anywhere, it was in Florida. And look, it is very possible that Republicans will still take the House by a couple of seats. And again, the Senate's still kind of up in the air. So overall, when it comes to establishment Republicans, they didn't do badly. But where they did do badly, and by the way, you also have the race in Georgia between Herschel Walker and his opponent, Raphael Warnock, that is going to go to a runoff. So that's going to happen in December. And so we don't know how that race is going to turn out as well, if it's going to benefit Republicans or allow Democrats to keep control of the Senate. So, but mainly, when it comes to most of Trump's picks, they did badly because they were crazy. They were insane. And sanity, in this case, prevailed, at least when it came to stopping this red wave. Now, that said, there was that red wave that I mentioned in Florida, DeSantis crushing Charlie Crist. There was no contest. Marco Rubio, of course, beat Val Demings by a lot, and it's important to note that both of those Democrats were the centrist establishment Democrats. So, for example, Andrew Gillum had actually done way better against Ron DeSantis. Andrew Gillum was a little bit more progressive than Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist is a literal former Republican. So, that said, it is for this reason that his candidates did so badly that the knives are out for Trump and everybody's praising Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis had an incredibly good night. Donald Trump did not. And now here we have major Republicans, Republican donors, as well as Rupert Murdoch, who is central to the Republican media machine that has got the knives out. In fact, I want to show you the latest edition. This is today's Murdoch New York Post, okay, which is a Murdoch-owned publication. Oof. Trumpty Dumpty. Yikes. Well, and the online headline for this story, written by John Podhoretz, was, "Here's how Donald Trump sabotaged the Republican midterms." And this is a right-wing publication. He also suggested that the nickname, that Trump be given the nickname Toxic Trump. Why not go with Loser Donald? Oh, wait, that's already taken. All right. But here's what he wrote. What Tuesday night's results suggest is that Trump is perhaps the most profound vote repellent in modern American history. The British political figure Oliver Cromwell once said that about other British politicians who had overstayed their welcome and were ruining the country. In the name of God, go, yo, toxic Trump, scram. Get out of here. Get out. You're done, son. You're done. Is he? No, of course not. I'm not going to count him out. But still, here is Murdoch-owned press saying, go, get out. Murdoch's Wall Street Journal also wrote an editorial on Trump's role in the midterms. Here's some quotes from that. Trump is the Republican Party's biggest loser. He has now flopped in 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Trumpy Republican candidates, they write, this is from the editorial board, failed at the ballot box in states that were clearly winnable. This can't be what Mr. Trump was envisioning ahead of his very, very big announcement next week. Since his unlikely victory in 2016 against a widely disliked Hillary Clinton, which was a fluke, by the way, Mr. Trump has had a perfect record of electoral defeat. The GOP was pounded in the 2018 midterms owing to his low approval rating. Mr. Trump himself lost in 2020. He then sabotaged Georgia's 2021 runoffs by blaming party leaders for not somehow overturning his defeat. So, look, those are some very important points here made against Trump. Look, Hillary Clinton, getting back to 2016, and why this was a fluke, Hillary Clinton ran a bad campaign. She did not run a good campaign. Donald Trump ran the outsider campaign in a time where a lot of people were looking for the outsider. And look, she had a trust issue, not just among the general electorate. She had a trust issue among her own voters. 39% of Democrats, according to a Morning Consult poll taken in 2016, did not trust Hillary Clinton. 26% said that she regularly changed positions when it was politically convenient. 25%, these are all Democrats, said Hillary Clinton, yeah, she is corrupt. Now, the numbers, again, those are among Democrats. When independents were polled, even worse. And of course, obviously, Republicans, not even going to get into those numbers because why? She's been attacked by Republicans constantly. They had created this entire, basically, cottage industry of attacking Hillary Clinton. So that's why I don't really count them. But among Democrats, she was not considered to be the best person to run in that election, especially against someone like Donald Trump. That said, here's why, don't make a mistake in saying that I'm, they think they're equivalent or anything like that. No, the level of corruption for Donald Trump is massive, worlds apart. Donald Trump is historically corrupt. And as much as I didn't like Hillary Clinton, I still don't like Hillary Clinton. You know what? If we can go back to 2016 and do it again, yeah, of course I'd vote for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. I'd be mental not to. In my state, again, which is an important state. That said, in 2016, people did not know who Donald Trump was. So I could forgive them for not realizing the disaster that was waiting for them for voting for Trump. And again, you've seen a lot of, Obama to Trump voters come out and say, oh, dear God, what have I done? And look, there's even some notable figures, that are progressive on quite a few issues that are like, yeah, I voted for Trump in 2016 and good God, holy crap, that was a terrible, terrible idea. So, but then if you voted for him in 2020 and in 2016, well then, no, you're useless. You're done. That said, I think a lot of Trump's voters did abandon him. They switched to Biden because Donald Trump massively botched COVID. Massively. And before that, he was a disaster, leading to a blue wave. As I mentioned, in 2018, 2020, Democrats won majorities. And now in 2022, Democrats did something that broke the usual political mold. They overperformed in a midterm, even though they had the party, they are the party that's in the White House. And generally, in midterms, voters kind of get sick of it, right? Of, whatever party is in the White House, and then they vote against them in the midterms. That did not happen in this case. So everyone is expecting Republicans to do very, very well. They ended up actually bungling it because they have a serial bungler. One that does not care about the Republican Party, and one that the Republican Party, at least the politicians, the people in power, and of course the donors, well, they don't care much for him either. In fact, they hate him, secretly hate him. And some not so secretly. Some are much more open about how much they despise Donald Trump. But again, we saw that Donald Trump, most Republicans bent the knee to him. But as they had done that, they've been sitting back and waiting for a chance to find someone, anyone else, so they could toss him overboard. And then, well, almost as if their prayers were answered, here comes Ron DeSantis in Florida. Now, Ron DeSantis is a lot of things. Loathsome person. Okay? But he's not a serial bungler. At least not in the level of Donald Trump in this case. No, Ron DeSantis does believe in what he's doing. He's definitely fighting the culture wars in Florida. And look, now that he won handily there, while Trump gets hammered for being an epic loser, the Republican establishment is saying, please, please save us, Ron DeSantis. Please save us. help us, Obi-Wan DeSantis. I know that's terrible, right? And again, what's most impactful here is the donors. And I guarantee you're not going to hear as much about that, from mainstream media specifically. But remember, the donors. It is the donors, and the donors want Ron DeSantis. They're all lining up behind him and abandoning Trump because it turns out that, insurrection, kind of bad for business, bad for corporations. So, all right, anyway. Oh, to add into the donors, you've got betting markets also going for DeSantis. Then you've got Ben Shapiro, Cernovich, then, of course, Fox News, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, headlines that are declaring DeSantis to be the leader of the Republican Party, the new leader. In fact, even Newt Gingrich said, I think Governor DeSantis is the single biggest winner of the night. He will almost certainly become the rallying point for everyone in the Republican Party who wants to move beyond President Trump. So, with all the furor now, there's a lot of pressure on Ron DeSantis. He's got to run. and again, I'm saying this just looking at it from an objective political view. With all this pressure on from the donors, from the media, from Murdoch's empire, they're all looking at Ron DeSantis saying, Ron, what are you waiting for? Do it. Do it. Do it now. Do it. It's like Palpatine. But anyway, if he doesn't run, and by the way, if he doesn't run, if he is too cowardly to do so, which certainly is a possibility, well, then that's what he'll be remembered for. And he'll never get another shot at the presidency ever. If he's thinking he's going to walk into 2028, be like, yo, Ron DeSantis here. I'm up in this bitch. The entire Republican Party is going to go, no, you didn't have balls to stand up behind against Donald Trump. So we're not interested in cowards. Remember, one thing that Republicans do like is strength. At least imagined strength. You can actually have a pretty good argument about why they're not strong at all. But that's the perception of strength here is something that I think a lot of Republicans saw in Trump. And that, by the way, that's why a lot of Republicans are abandoning Trump now, because he's been whining and crying about the election for 2 years. But that said, do not count out Trump. Donald Trump could obviously rally. The guy has proven that he's got more lives than a litter of cats. There's every possibility that he's going to get Republican politicians to get back to kissing his ass, because that'll happen. We've seen it before. How many times have we seen the story? Donald Trump's done. He's done. He's done. And look, Donald Trump was able to claw his way back, Donkey Kong his way through it. And the reason is simple. Donald Trump still has the Republican voters on his side. DeSantis voters, by the way, in Florida, they were asked by Michael Schur from TYT, who would they, vote for? And I know it's a relatively small sample, but pretty much everyone at this Trump rally that was asked, hey, look, you're a fan of Donald Trump, right? Well, of course. You're a fan of Ron DeSantis? Well, of course. Who would you go for, if they were fighting each other? Well, I'd go for Donald Trump. So I think that's important context here. That said, it is notable and should be noted that Donald Trump is at his weakest point since January 6th. He is vulnerable. And at this point right now, it's gotten to where Murdoch and the donors, they're taking their shot to try to throw him overboard. And we'll see what happens. Donald Trump, again, might hold on like a very, very stubborn turd.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
Or not. It's going to be interesting to see. Very interesting. Ooh. Yeah. It's going to be a bloodbath between Trump and DeSantis. If it happens. If it happens. Moving on, let's get to Candace Owens. a second Daily Wire host has turned on former President Donald Trump, following in Ben Shapiro's footsteps, who was very, very critical of former President Trump after the midterm red wave turned out to be like a little bit of a puddle, kind of a trickle here. Well, Candace Owens specifically, Candace Owens had a few choice words for Trump on her show. So now first, she claimed that Trump had gotten very mad at her for her being anti-vax. Because at the time, Donald Trump had been taking credit for the coronavirus vaccine. Now, she starts out by referencing a Daily Beast article titled Candace Owens, Trump is pro-vax because he's too old to understand the internet, which is hilarious and true because he not that he's too old to understand the internet. It's just that he's too stupid to understand the internet. I think that's a clear distinction. Okay. That said, apparently word got around to him and it got under his skin. And so here's Candace Owens explaining how he felt about that.
Not only was he just mad, by the way, he then, during a golf session with some mutual friends of ours, had a person next to him who was egging this on, saying to Trump, and I know this because, again, this is a mutual friend, aren't you mad at Candace? Aren't you mad at Candace? Aren't you mad at Candace? And eventually he was like, yeah, I'm so mad at Candace. I'm so mad at Candace. And this got back to me that he was upset with me, that he was angry at me. And the next time that I saw him, he was quite rude to me. He was actually rude to me. I'm telling you this personal story because I think it is something that made me, for the first time, question him as a person. So you have an individual that spent years defending you, right? And that individual gave you a completely kind and fair interview. You said something yourself that your base didn't like, and you somehow transformed that into something that I did wrong. That's unacceptable.
Oh, yeah, this mutual friend was just talking so much crap about me, and I just think it was unacceptable. It's so unfair. And he was so mad at me. Oh, but it's not my fault that you don't understand that I'm running a grift here, that, pandering to anti-vax Republicans. It's kind of my thing. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. I've defended you so much. How dare you? Candace Owens turning on Trump is yummy in my tummy. I love it. It's so good. Now, again, this is funny because this is about vaccines. Look, Donald Trump, he'd been floating anti-vax stuff for years. He went into the whole, vaccines cause, vaccines that cause autism. That's what I hear. Andrew Wakefield, very, very smart, very genius. Level paper. No, that entire Wakefield thing was completely discredited and debunked. There's no links between vaccines and autism. But anyway, he was anti-vax. And look, even to the point of where during COVID, he was like, why don't we shine light bulbs in your ass? Or drink bleach. Could do that. But then, of course, he did Operation Warp Speed, and that did develop, gave a ton of money to Pfizer and all these different companies, Moderna, to develop these vaccines. And look, generally that's good. I support the vaccine. I've been vaccinated. I haven't gotten COVID somehow, so I would think it works. And look, people who have had the vaccine, who've gotten COVID, they generally turn out pretty okay for the most part. So yeah, the vaccine works. That said, okay. Seeing them, though, fight over this, again, hilarious, right? Because Donald Trump's taking credit for the vaccine. Again, he didn't develop it. He didn't create it. He just, shoveled a bunch of money towards it. Okay, fine. You know what? And I said this before. Okay, go ahead and take credit. I really don't care. We know the truth, but if you want to brag about it to try to get more MAGA, to take vaccines, it's great. If that has that effect. Now, it did not have that effect, unfortunately, because MAGA was like, no, I would rather drink piss. No, I'm literally like, that's what happened. There were people out there talking about drinking their own urine to fight against COVID. Not to mention, the ivermectin and all the other BS cures out there, right? And treatments that these people tried instead of getting vaccinated. I mean, it's ridiculous. The MAGA base pretty much thinks that, like, the vaccines, like Trump's out there saying, I made the vaccine. It saved many, many people. I mean, you could take it if you want it, but you probably should because it's good. Because I did this, but you don't have to. It's your choice. And MAGA's like, the vaccine is full of demons. A literal Satan in my veins. Yeah, okay. Look, it's a huge disconnect, right? Now, of course, the reason Candace Owens is anti-vax is not because she actually believes in, against vaccines. I don't think Candace Owens is an idiot. I think she's a grifter. I think she's somebody who is taking advantage of the idiocy in the Republican base in order to get a paycheck. And it goes for her advantage. She's a black conservative, right? And so, well, look, she's wealthy because she don't want to pay taxes, for one. So, she actually is a conservative. But I doubt that she falls, for all the different, I don't think she believes the things that she says. I just don't. People aren't that stupid, unless you're Marjorie Greene. Okay. That said, the reason I say this is because being anti-vax on the Republican side is a great way to make money. I've told you before that she has sold supplements on her website. Her vaccine skepticism is all about selling supplements. A lot like what InfoWars was doing with their show, with their store. She would sell colloidal silver for COVID, which does not work for COVID. So understand that her financial interests lie in pandering to the anti-vax MAGA movement. That said, the timing here of her turnaround, her sudden turnaround, and why she shared this story on yesterday's show. Well, that's because you had the Republican Party ripping itself apart over Trump, over these losses in the midterm. Right now, it's a feeding frenzy. It is a bunch of piranhas, and they sense blood in the water. Trump, it's a feeding frenzy. Again, Ben Shapiro, as I mentioned, he went after Donald Trump, and his picks said candidate quality matters, and Donald Trump did absolutely nothing but burden the party. Then, of course, you had Rupert Murdoch, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, posting negative articles about Trump, glowing articles about Ron DeSantis. But, of course, that is mainly driven, though, by the donors. The donors, they're the ones that are really running the Republican Party, and the donors have had enough of Donald Trump, and they see the future in Ron DeSantis. So they're doing their best to push Donald Trump overboard. Now, if it fails, of course, immediately you're going to see Ben Shapiro. He'll be the first one to line up to kiss Trump's ass. And then, of course, you'll have Candace Owens. And you'll have all the people that have been speaking out against Trump suddenly groveling in front of him. And I wouldn't count them out. That said, they want DeSantis right now. In fact, look, here is Candace criticizing Donald Trump for attacking Ron DeSantis. Look.
And I think that the MAGA movement is reflecting Trump. I think there is a trepidation that I'm sensing in Trump. And I think that trepidation is evidenced by him taking a random swing at DeSantis last week. I don't think it was helpful.
Random swing at DeSantis. I just don't think it was helpful. Now, there's actually two swings at DeSantis. One was when he called him Ron DeSanctimonious. Again, not exactly your best work. I know.
I know words. I have the best words.
But he's got the best words. He's got the best words. And then look, on True Social, because you can tell that Ron DeSantis, all the glowing talk about him is definitely getting under Donald Trump's skin. He said this on True Social. Now that the election in Florida is over and everything went quite well, Shouldn't it be said that in 2020, I got 1.1 million more votes in Florida than Ron D got this year? 5.7 to 4.6 million. Just asking. Just asking. Baby. Sad. Look, and the reason that he brings this up, and it doesn't make sense, is the fact that presidential elections generally have higher turnouts than midterm elections. And so, of course, yeah, you're going to get more votes. Why would you bring this up? It's because you're unmanned by the potential of Ron DeSantis coming in and stealing your place in the Republican Party. He's scared. He literally does see Ron DeSantis as real competition, which is kind of hilarious because I actually don't think that Ron DeSantis would have a chance if Ron DeSantis tries to meet Trump on his own territory. But before I get to that, let me just point out how DeSantis did crush Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist is a terrible candidate. I definitely agree. Donald Trump lost to Biden. Donald Trump is hurting and he knows it. So again, the only thing that the thing that Donald Trump's trying to do right now is the only thing that he knows how to do, and that is to attack. To attack, and that is pissing off Republicans. Now, if Ron DeSantis runs and he focuses on the things that he did that chuds love, right? Like, deporting migrants to different states, using public money, which is absolutely abhorrent. But then again, chuds love it. Like, yes, send them to Martha's Vineyard, send them somewhere else. Yeah. Okay, use them as a political prop. He loves that. Going to war with woke Disney, of course, doing things like don't say gay, in banning trans healthcare for trans teens, all that stuff. The chuds love it. They absolutely love this stuff. Donald Trump doesn't really have much of a record to run on. So if Ron DeSantis keeps to those things and does not go into the mud with Trump, he actually could do better. He might be a contender. Now, if he goes into the mud with Trump, that's what he's done. You don't get in the mud with a pig. And that's what Trump is. He'll Donkey Kong. I don't know for certain, but that's what I see happening. Okay? Now, that said, let me go back to Candace. And this is like the final nail, right? She said that while Trump could win in 2024, and of course, like a good Republican, she'll line up and vote for him, kiss his ass. But she says this: Trump needs to take a good look in the mirror, and he needs to take a good look in the room, and he needs to read the room accurately. Not going to happen. He needs to take a look at those that are around him, that are inspiring this paranoia and making him believe that everyone's out to get him, including his friends. And he needs to exercise a tiny bit more humility when he gets something wrong. Humility. Do you see humility happening with Trump? No. No, of course not. Do you even know who you're dealing with? Who you're talking about? Seriously. He's never admitted to doing anything wrong ever in his life. Look, to give you a great example, Dr. Oz got crushed by John Fetterman, and Donald Trump endorsed Dr. Oz. So now, but once Dr. Oz lost, he's like, you know what? Dr. Oz wasn't Melania's best choice. She convinced me. She really, really wanted me to endorse Dr. Oz. It wasn't her best choice. No, her not best choice was marrying you. The same. But, and then of course blame Sean Hannity as well, and everyone else not taking any responsibility for anything. Because that's who Donald Trump is. He'll never take responsibility. He'll never have any sort of humility when he gets something wrong, because he'll never even admit that he gets something wrong. It's amazing. But she continues, Trump is not perfect. I am not perfect. I get things wrong. You don't say. I edit. I say, thank you guys for bringing me this new information. I hadn't realized that. And there's still a period where he could transform. But I think the results of last night's election, which are still coming in, show that we aren't sure that he's not sure. And therefore, we aren't sure. And that's all I have to say about that. That is a lot of words to say pretty much nothing. Other than, I guess, there's one more rat fleeing the ship. Again, he could turn it around. They'll kiss his ass. But if they're successful in pushing him off the ship, well, there's no coming back from that. Wife straight under the bus. True. Very, very, very true. All right. Trump will throw the country and his wife under the bus. We all know that. Again, there's no lies here. No lies that have been spoken on that. Okay. Let's go to Marjorie Greene. Votes still continue to be counted from Tuesday night's midterm elections for some of the closest races in the country that have essentially come down to the wire. Currently, Kari Lake is in a very close race with Katie Hobbs in Arizona for the governorship. In Colorado, Lauren Boebert is barely hanging on against Adam Frisch. They are separated by like a couple hundred votes. Control of Congress is on the line, and everybody is waiting with bated breath as the votes slowly come in. However, Marjorie Greene apparently seems to have taken issue with the fact that some of these votes do take a while to come in, and she is suspecting foul play, if you will. I'm sure our enemies are quacking in their boots while we are still over here trying to count ballots. They're quacking in their boots. You could say that they are ducking mad. Several minutes later, by the way, she followed up the tweet with a correction. Apparently somebody warned her or told her, hey, that's not how you spell that, right? Look, haven't we all typoed? I do it all the time. To be fair, I leave out words. My Twitter is a mess. I'm not winning with my Twitter account. But here's the funny thing about Greene. She does have a bit of a history of, and I don't know if she's doing it intentionally, which would be actually kind of hilarious because of all the press that she gets for it. And maybe the fact that maybe people will underestimate her. I don't know. But then again, you'd have to be super smart in order to have that strategy. And I don't know if Marjorie Greene does strategy, but she does have this history of saying ridiculous things. If you can all remember,
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
They're coming to the Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police. They're coming. They're coming to take your soup. They're coming for your dinner table. Oh my God. She also talked about fake meat. Bill Gates wants everyone to eat his fake meat grown in the
Peachtree dish.
The Peachtree dish. Ah, yes. And then in October, this is another tweet where she talked about Joe Biden's attempts to reach out to women voters, saying Biden can't even define what a woman is. A women. So, that said, following her epic duck up, Greene was, of course, roundly mocked on the Bird app, which is, again, irony. Let's show you that here. Hey! There you go. They're quacking in their boots. There's more. Yeah, they're definitely quacking in the boots. Release the quacking. It's the quackening. It has happened. And I'm sure a lot of you are quacking up right now. Fun. Too many puns. Too many puns. Need to bring it down. Just a little bit. Couple more tweets here. From Absolute Equality, one says, "Are your opponents ducks? God, how are you reelected?" The Southern Lib says, "Quacking JFC." And out of curiosity, I just checked to see if autocorrect turned quaking into quacking. And it doesn't. That's how she thinks it's spelled. Fun for all. But look, let's get to a serious point. She thinks that spending several days counting ballots is a sign of voter fraud. And again, that's what they believe. She's like, the communists, they're out there. They're going to steal your votes. And the longer you take to count the ballots, the more the communists have changed the ballots. Now, of course, that's ridiculous. It's demonstrably false. Look, the Brennan Center for Justice, for example, says there's a reason that some states come in later on with their ballots. There are states that require election workers to wait up until election day to remove absentee ballots from envelopes. And of course, to begin counting. And if you have a large number of absentee ballots, well, then of course, it's going to take a while to count them. And look, states that do process absentee ballots ahead of election day can include them on the vote counts on election night. But since every state seems to want to have a different way of running their own elections, we often do have to wait for some of these states to catch up to the rest of us. Even though the votes are already cast, these aren't new votes that are coming in, they're just being counted and reported. That delay does not mean that there is fraud. And of course, that's the whole thing behind the conspiracy theory about the red mirage, right? Oh, yes, see, we were winning. And then what did we have? We had
dumps, big, massive dumps.
That's what we had. They just dumped a bunch of fraudulent ballots in there into the count after the election. And that's how we, no, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. They just count them and then report them. But sometimes, again, it takes time to count these votes. Does not mean fraud. And look, recently, there's a right-winger who did not trust the 2020 results. And I showed you that video yesterday. If you didn't see it, you can watch it when you're done with this. And look, this guy was like, I didn't trust the results from 2016. I didn't trust the results from 2020. So what I did is I was a poll worker. All right. I was a poll watcher. Sorry. And I watched it and I tried to ask questions. Well, and they wouldn't answer my questions. They said I had to be an election worker. So I signed up 2022 to be an election worker. And you know what I found? That it was a clean election and there was no fraud. Oops. Turns out it's really hard to do fraud and then get away with it. And we do hear stories of voter fraud a lot lately from a lot of Trump supporters are like, oh yeah, I voted for Trump twice. Why? I thought it was Democrats that did voter fraud. Well, they do, but I did too. Oh. Right. Or look, the fact that it takes longer just means that they want to count every ballot from all sides. And that could be beneficial, by the way, to Republicans. Because Republican ballots are also counted. They're not getting thrown out. So, look, I can guarantee you, by the way, that if Lauren Boebert and Kari Lake do win their respective races, just by a hair, well, they're going to drop the voter fraud narrative. Or they're going to say, well, they won despite mass voter fraud. Really? Well, if voter fraud is the deciding factor, then wouldn't you have done enough fraud to win? That wouldn't make sense, would it? To do all the voter fraud just to not win by a couple of hundred votes. No, if you're going to do voter fraud, you're going to be in it to win it. It's a ridiculous narrative, and it doesn't make sense in so many different ways. Every time you try to, dissect it and be like, wait a minute, let's look at this logically, that doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't have to make sense for them. Look, in their minds, if they win, it's a mandate. It's the will of the people. The American people have spoken. But if a Democrat wins, for people like Marjorie Greene, they think, well, it's got to be fraud. It has to be fraud. It's not. You're just a lunatic. All right. Let's go to Jesse Waters. Fox News' Jesse Waters never misses an opportunity to be super creepy towards women. Take a look.
But Democrats are dominating the cities. I mean, absolute dominations, 85 to 15 types of spreads. Also, single women are breaking for Democrats by 30 points. And this makes sense when you think about how Democrat policies are designed to keep women single. But once women get married, they vote Republican. Married women, married men go for Republicans by double digits. But single women and voters under 40 have been captured by Democrats. So we need these ladies to get married. And it's time to fall in love and just settle down. Guys, go put a ring on it. And abortion is really driving turnout. In some cases, it drove turnout more than inflation. So Republicans have to figure out if they're for a total abortion ban or if they're for legalization in the first trimester.
Yes, ladies. Jesse Waters says, just go and get married, and then you can become a good Republican. Because that's suddenly changes your political leanings, except that that's not how it works at all. Look, there are plenty of married women who are super progressive. It doesn't have anything to do whether or not you're married. I mean, but here's the thing, of course. Jesse Waters is a moron. He's not very smart. Never was very smart. He has a history of making creepy statements about women, talking about, wombs, and there is this preoccupation on the right wing about talking about, wombs, fertility. You got Matt Walsh out there talking about, oh yeah, 16, 17-year-olds. That's when they're the most fertile. That's when they should get married. Yes. Really, Matt, you're like 40. What is wrong with you? Well, you know what? There's a lot wrong with him. And by the way, maybe somebody might want to check out his hard drive. Matt Walsh, right? But look, as far as Jesse Waters, I'm almost convinced, about 96% convinced that he's got a woman tied up in his basement. I can't prove it. Can't prove it. But you know what? I get that vibe. I get that vibe. Hey, idiot. You know the reason unmarried women broke for Democrats? Because unmarried women generally tend to be more younger, and younger people are more progressive than ever. Again, that's just general. I'm being general with it. There are obviously different, exceptions to rules. But still, progressives, they actually do care about freedom. We do care about bodily autonomy. Republicans want to take that bodily autonomy away and call a fertilized egg a human being. That's insanity. Total insanity. And yes, married and unmarried women, a lot of them were like, I'm not interested in that. Let's not do that. Now, look, there's other factors, of course, why older married couples more often than not vote Republican. For one, they could just be more socially traditional, right? Socially conservative. Okay. Another could be economic. Now, look, it takes, two people in a household to make ends meet, unless you're a wealthy person. Now, if you're a wealthy person, well, wealthier people tend to vote for Republicans on economic issues, like tax cuts, for example. they want to cut their taxes. Okay. But when it comes to things like abortion rights, well, women tend to like having choice. That's why in a lot of states, ballot measures on reproductive freedom actually did incredibly well. Incredibly well. It's not an issue of, oh, well, you're a single woman. That means you must love abortion. No. Married women get abortions as well. In some cases, to save their lives. But again, Jesse Waters, it's not like he's smart. Jesse Waters, again, I think he's an incel. I think he spends way too much time thinking about other people's, genitals, women's especially, and he's just a creep. So, yeah. All right. Let's get one more here. And yes, we go from a misogynistic Republican to a Democrat making misogynistic remarks. So, hey, you know what? We're fair and we have equal opportunity on the show. A Democratic strategist has apologized for making a terrible joke about Lauren Boebert at the expense of sex workers. Take a look.
What's the meaning if Lauren Boebert, the second most popular QAnon congressperson in MAGA, what if she loses? And what job will she have? Because I don't even think shooters exist anymore. I don't think shooters exist anymore. What, Megan?
Well, I guess it might be a gain for OnlyFans. I don't know what she would do in this scenario, but I think that for symbolically to take out one of the poster childs of the MAGA movement, someone who has been an absolute disgrace to the office that she holds, would be a great feather in the cap and would, I think, cement the fact that this has been an absolute unmitigated disaster for the MAGA wing of the Republican Party.
All right, so look, on the political analysis, sure, I agree with him, but Kurt Bardella, what are you doing? what are you doing shaming people on OnlyFans? Now, again, I say this as a hater of Lauren Boebert. I do not like Lauren Boebert. I despise her. But Kurt, what was that? Now, of course, I'm going to get to his apology, which is actually pretty good. But first, I just want to say, like, comparing Lauren Boebert to a sex worker, it's just ridiculous. I disagree with that because, look, for one, sex work is real work. It's actually can be difficult work, and the workers there are marginalized for doing something that, let's be honest, there's a lot of people, millions of people consume and enjoy. I despise Boebert, but that was a sexist remark, and it wasn't cool. It was also job shaming. And again, there's millions of things that you could, go after Lauren Boebert about. Like, for example, her husband allegedly exposing himself to minors at a bowling alley. So, I mean, that's, gross. Now, progressives did respond to this, and this is where what led him to make the apology. As Kenson says, Steve Kenson, suggesting Lauren Boebert has no career options other than OnlyFans is an insult to the numerous and savvy professional sex workers using that site, and more of the usual prejudice that sex work is selling your body, while doing body or soul-crushing work for minimum wage isn't. Michael Buckley says, stop making Lauren Boebert OnlyFans jokes. OnlyFans is a platform where creative and hardworking people can make money. Sex work is work. She is a cockroach, cult member, extremist terrorist. Please do not insult OnlyFans. Thank you. Brad says, Lauren Boebert is an irredeemable ghoul, but it's so weird how libs go to the same misogynistic and anti-sex worker wells when they criticize her. Don't they realize that being an OnlyFans model is fundamentally more respectable than being in Congress? Oh, damn. Oh, that's a good one. Cassie, freelance transfiguration specialist, tweets, super cool to see everyone joking that Boebert will have to make a living on OnlyFans after this. Sex work isn't a joke. It's challenging, takes talent, and it's not something to be ashamed of. I have friends who make a living that way, and they deserve better. And then finally, Ginny Hogan, who is a writer for The Atlantic, tweets this out. This joke about Lauren Boebert joining OnlyFans, if she loses, is so offensive. Creators on OnlyFans work hard and spread joy. Yeah. Now, Lauren Boebert, again, that's the opposite of what Lauren Boebert does. She spreads conspiracy theories and misery to everyone, to all. So, another one here, YouTuber and chef Jerry James Stone tweets, with all the sexist and job-shaming tweets about Boebert losing, there's nothing wrong with being on OnlyFans. There's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's. True. Please stop using those examples as a way to disparage her. And Alexandra Hunt tweets, I can't stand Boebert, but this sexism isn't cute. There's no shame in having an OnlyFans. Kurt Bardella, do better. Now, I want to note that someone that laughed at it was Joy-Ann Reid. You're a feminist. No, you're supposed to be a feminist, Joy. That is an offensive joke. So why would you let that fly? Now, Claire McCaskill also didn't push back on it, although she looked a little bit surprised. But they said, oh, you're a feminist. Well, look, you can't be a feminist and abandon sex workers. Just saying. Feminism is supposed to be about empowerment. Women making their own choices in their own lives for their own careers. So if you want to be a sex worker, there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't like that. And the reason that I bring this up, that I'm actually kind of passionate about this, is the fact that I see so many people that have marginalized sex workers. That leads to an environment for sex workers that is not safe. I want sex workers to be safe. I want them to be protected against abuse and violence that does happen, to be protected against trafficking, and to have legal recourses available to them if they need it without being criminalized. We cannot protect those workers if you continuously marginalize them, mock them, shame them, and criminalize them. And it's gotten to the point where credit card companies refuse to do business with a lot of these sites. Anything that involves sex work. And so you have cut these people off from banking. They've had to go to ridiculous things like, crypto in order to pay for, their services. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're cut off from making revenue in safe ways as a result of a lot of this marginalization. So it isn't funny. Now, that said, I want to go to the apology here from Bardella, because, again, he was criticized very harshly for it. In a tweet responding to Hunt, Bardella said this, I appreciate your feedback, and when someone from your vantage point weighs in, that warrants consideration and reflection. I'll be more thoughtful about my words in the future. It is never my intention to shame women. I apologize, period. He also adds, there's nothing wrong with consensual interactions on platforms like OnlyFans. Anyone suggesting otherwise in an effort to shame or judge really needs to examine their own perception of women and their autonomy. That said, he added, because since it does deal with Lauren Boebert, you get a lot of right-wingers that are pretending to, be outraged, like, oh, how dare you go after Lauren Boebert. But wait, the right wing also loves to criminalize sex work and criminalize women. And in fact, again, eliminating Roe set the stage for sex workers to be even more at risk. Because, if they end up, something happens, they end up, not being able to access birth control, for one, because that's something that Republicans have talked about doing, or, getting pregnant, even being on birth control, they're not going to be able to get abortion services. And that's because of Republicans. So again, if MAGA chuds are like, how dare you shame her, sex worker, blah, blah, blah. That's not coming from a good place. So let's be fair. So he says, we all know that they don't give a rip about sexism, misogyny, or equality. These are hypocrites of the first order, and I agree with that. And he adds, just look at their standard bearer, Donald Trump. So look, I read that apology because it's a good one. It is a good apology, and I do like how there was so much pushback from the progressive community, and I think that's a really good sign. That yes, younger people, progressives, They are looking out for women. They are looking out for people in the sex work industry to try to protect them. And that's the right thing to do. Especially, again, if you are claiming to be a feminist. So, look, I don't think Kurt Bardella needs to be, whatever, cancel cultured for this. Because he clearly seems to have learned his lesson. And we all make mistakes. And so I'm willing to let this one go. All right. That's it. That's all I got for the show. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Hour already. Swerfs are lame, says Rialan N. True. You do not want to be a swerf. All right. Amanda's Miracle Chipmunk says Boebert was an escort when she met Ted Cruz. He dumped thousands to her campaign to get her nominated. I probably talked about that story. Again, so let me just go back to this and Melania, right? Because look, there's a lot of pictures of Melania Trump being a model, and I think that that's something that we shouldn't criticize her for. There's a million things again to criticize Melania Trump on. That doing those pictures, that is not something that we should be attacking women for. And again, even if the story is true, that she was an escort, again, there's a million other things that you can criticize Lauren Boebert for. That her choice of career doesn't really matter to me in that case. As one commenter pointed out in the Twitter, it's actually worse being a member of Congress because, again, taking money from the donors to do their bidding against everyone else. I think that's far, far worse. Because you know what? Being a sex worker is a good thing. You're actually helping people and giving them a good outcome and a good ending, as opposed to Congress, which routinely gives us bad endings. Okay. I often criticize Melania for being the most difficult boss in Elden Ring. I get it. I get that reference. Well done. Well done. Okay. You can't do that job and be a Christian. Who says that she's I don't believe that she's a Christian. She's never even read her Bible. And wait a minute, hold on. Jesus hung out with prostitutes. Just saying. Okay. Twitch. Let's go to Twitch here. SBloom85, thank you for subbing Prime for 23 months. Appreciate that. And YouTube, nothing going on YouTube, unfortunately. So, all right. With that, let's end the show. Raid into reactions with Ravana. Alex Jones is in the news today. Yeah, he owes even more money to the victims of Sandy Hook for his lies, which is hilarious. Guy's out of money. But you know what? He fucked around. Now he's gonna find out. All right, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you.
Sexual anarchy. Oh yeah.
Disappointed!
Peachtree Dish. Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police
and why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
I have not loved this conversation. Obama.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.